Hi everyone, Joel again, and I've got a beautiful Photoshop tutorial for you. This is so massive, this is actually going to be in two parts. Um, my Year 5 class is learning about space as one of their topics, so I thought it would be fun in Photoshop to create their own sort of galaxy and also their own planet, to design their own planet. So that's what we're going to do today. This first video here is going to be about creating their galaxy or their space scene, and the second video will be creating their planet and putting that all together. So here you see in Photoshop, I have already created a star field for them. There are plenty of videos out there that can show you how to make a star field. Basically, it's a function of the add noise filter. This is the one that I came up with here, and I had this ready to go for the students. It's a PSD file here with a single layer all together, ready to go. Now, just so you know what it is that we're going to be doing, up here, this is how our galaxy is going to look. I'll just zoom that in a bit. It might not look exactly like this, depending on how I paint it, but this is how I have done my example. And then when I put my planet in, that's how it's going to look right there. I'm quite proud of that. I think it looks really nice. We've got the planet there. We've got a bit of a glow around the planet. There's a shadow there as well, you can see. And there's a star in the background that's creating that lens flare effect. So that's what we're ultimately going to come up with. Okay, so let's go to the star field and let's see what we can do. The first thing I want to do is I want to make a new layer. So I'm going to click on the new layer button at the bottom, and I'm going to fill this layer with black. So there's a few ways of doing this. I actually, even though there are shortcuts to do this, I find it's easier for the kids to remember how to do it with a menu. So that's Edit and Fill, and make sure it's going to be filled with black. There we go, filled with black. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to create some clouds. So I'm going to go to the filter, and I'm going to render here, and I'm going to choose clouds over here. And that just comes up with some random clouds here as a filter. That looks good. I'm actually going to change the blending mode from normal to color dodge. Okay. It is a bit hard to see the clouds there, but they are still there. That's fine. I want to create a new layer now. Click on the new layer button, and I want to drag this layer in between my clouds and my star field there. And I am going to paint on this. I'm going to choose a foreground color. So I'm going to click on this swatch over here for the foreground color. And I've already chosen a color. You can choose whatever you want, but if you want to choose along with me, mine is hex code 0018FF. Basically, it's a rich, dark, not dark blue, it's more of a navy blue. Okay. All right, so I'm going to need the brush tool for this. So I'm going to choose the brush tool. And what I'm looking for is a soft brush. And in my case, I'm looking for something about 300. That's a good size, but I think I will just check that the hardness is 0. 300 is fine, maybe a bit smaller. In my case, it really depends on how big your star field is. Something along those lines looks good. But what's really important is we want the opacity to be 10%. Don't forget that step. That's really important. Otherwise, it's going to be too harsh. So let's go up here with the brush tool and change the opacity and bring it down to 10% there. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do some little paints over here like this. Sort of like that. Okay, good. Okay, so now I'm going to change the foreground color again. I'm going to click on that. And this code, if you want to follow along with what I'm doing, is 00FFEA. You can see it's a light blue there. All right, so let's paint a bit of that in. There we go. Just sort of paint it in how you like. There we go. Maybe somewhere around here. Very good. Okay, so I've done that, and you know, at this stage, I'm just going to blur it a little bit. I think it needs to not be quite so harsh. So I'm going to go to the filter menu. I'm going to go to blur, and I'm going to choose Gaussian blur here. Oh, hang on, blur, Gaussian blur, and I want it to blur around about 80 pixels. I'm thinking. See how that looks. Let's have a look at the preview. If I turn it off, and turn it on again, you see the blur really blurs it nicely together. It doesn't look like paint strokes anymore. I think that's really good. So I'm going to press OK. That's what I'm looking for. So I can see those shades of dark blue and light blue sort of coming through. That looks good. All right, I'm going to change the foreground color again. So I'm going to click on here. I'm going to change the color to 6000 FF, and that gives me a purple color. I'm going to change this brush to a bigger brush. So in my case, I'm going to right click here and I'm going to change it to about 300. So a much bigger brush. And I'm just going to do some little painting along here, sort of like that, sort of purple it up a bit basically. Okay, that looks good. That's nice. All right, and one more color I'm going to choose. So I'm going to click on the foreground color again. My last code is FFD200, all right, which is a sort of gold color basically. And what I want to do with this is I want to brush over a little bit of area, but also brush over an area that's already been painted quite a bit to give it a bit of a brightness to it. So I'm just going to click here, 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 something like that, and maybe just click over here a couple of times. There we go, just a nice sort of brightness over there. Now that I'm looking at this, I don't like these dots. Let's just sort of join them all together like that. Bit there, bit there, bit there, bit there. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. All right, I'm going to stop now. I could go on for ages. Oh, bit there. Okay, that looks good. All right, so now I have created my galaxy. So the next step is to create the planets, and that's what I'm going to do in the next movie.